Hey, what's going on, all my wonderful warriors out there? It's RuBen here, otherwise known as Ben_Ruby. And today, I wanted to show you guys the game known as Outward. Now, several of you have probably seen me play this game on stream, don't know much about the game, and a lot of people don't understand that there are no tutorials for this game. And while it's a niche game, it's still a really good game. But this game does not hold your hand at all. And I thought, why don't I make a tutorial video of what you should do in the early game of Outward? Now, Outward is a very difficult game to begin with. The combat is very hard to learn and understand. But this is the beginner area. And the main thing that I normally do is I just go straight to bed. But there is a way that you can come over this way, exactly the path that I'm taking. You don't have to take the exact path, but there's this little arch over here with a little weapon. Now, this machete will help you during the early game, understanding the basic combat. You actually do not have to fight these hyenas to get that stuff. I'm going to show you a trick that I learned and how to exactly do it. Oh, well. He spotted me somehow. Alright, so basics of combat is always watch what your enemy is going to do. You can follow movement very easily. Of course, I would get hit with a disease. There are two bars above each creature. There is the health bar and the stamina bar, otherwise known as their impact resistance. Normally, you want to trade blows with the enemy and attempt to, in an attempt to kill them. But there are ways to negate damage, but that will be shown much later. Now, obviously, you don't have to come over here. There's no point to it, other than the little thing that I just showed you. It gives you a little bit of extra armor and some free hide. If you can kill both hyenas, do it. I took too much damage from the first one, so I'm not going to be able to do it. Sometimes hyenas will drop predator bones, which is good for early game cash. And that's all you're going to be worried about in the early game is cash and the amount of money that you can earn in a day. And also, what dungeons you know that you can take on, and the dungeons that you don't know how to take on. Now, Yazan here will tell you a bunch of story, but I've already done that several times, and I know everything that he tells you. You can also gather all these gab berries. I'm not going to because there's no real point to it. There's no necessary food requirements in the early game. But obviously, you just want to sleep until the next day, or at least 10 hours to get your full health back. 10 to 12 hours is always going to be full health, full stamina bar, but it will get rid of all of your mana. But now I'm going to teach you the easiest way to beat the early game of Outward. This has been through several playtests and several iterations of characters, understanding the game a lot better. I will also be showing you the different classes that you can go in each one of these. Now, normally you want to put on this attire right here or this one. They both do the exact same thing. And also, always check the chest and pick up this backpack, because you're going to need this backpack much later. Obviously, we got a flint and steel. We don't need this wood. This food will stay here as long as you keep the lighthouse, so I normally never pick it up. You can pick it up if you really want to. I leave it here for whenever you really need it. Always take this bedroll that is downstairs. Learn this recipe. Very important recipe there. That lantern we don't actually need because we already have one. And as soon as you walk outside, you're going to be confronted by Risa and the guards of Cierzio about a blood price that has been put on your head.
Only have a few days.
Now,
Our ancestors watch over you.
Unfortunately, my game bugged, and I didn't have any music until there. That was a little annoying. Now, the main thing that you're going to want to do is, Risa tells you that you have 3 days to make 120 silver. I'm on the definitive edition, and it is very difficult to earn money on this edition because of how the difficulty spike is from the original game and the definitive edition. There are ways to earn a bunch of money very early and very easily in the early game, such as fishing, opening junk piles, and hoping that you get what you need. But the easiest way to do this is just craft any old piece of gear. I'm gonna use this tattered attire. Craft a bandage, and then head over to the storeroom. Obviously, you don't have to do this straight away. I'm gonna actually go get the water skin. I don't really like using stamina early game because you can normally just walk everywhere that you're going to go. But we will use stamina to get this water skin. And you know what? While we're over here, I'm going to go ahead and show you the main place where you can always find a fishing harpoon in case you want to do fishing early game to earn a bunch of coin. Also, fishing is very important later on in the game, and you'll find out why sooner rather than later. As you can see, you can get random items. I just got free worker boots for no reason. Obviously, we see Yazan is here. Every fishing spot has a chance of getting a different fish and also one random material. Right now, I'm only getting seaweed. There's a very low % chance that you can get an item called blue sand. That blue sand is going to be pretty important if you want to play a specific class. But right now, we're not worried about that. We're mainly worried about money. Obviously, each shopkeeper that is in Cierzio will buy and sell you items. We don't need this. We can hold on to this leather. We can hold on to this raw meat. We don't need these extra pieces of gear. We don't really need these fish at the moment, and we really don't need that seaweed. So we made 55 silver just by doing that. Which is not half bad. But the easiest way to avert the losing of the lighthouse, while also being able to keep all of your money, is heading to the storeroom. The storeroom is filled with two monsters called troglodytes, and several different areas that you can find within it. But the place that I'm going to be taking you on this journey with me is out the back of the storeroom. Now, there are several items in here, such as a flint and steel, another lantern, another bedroll, and of course, some nice food. There's also this little pile of junk over here that you can always find stuff in. Luckily, we found a cooking pot, which is one of the main things that I like to have early game. It is a very easy way of making quick travel rations. I always pick up this mining pick. You don't necessarily need it, but I always pick it up because it is nice to have early game. Now, obviously, these troglodytes are going to target onto you, but you can easily evade them and not take any damage. Luckily, I just got a small sapphire from that mining outcrop. Normally, I am not that lucky. That is surprisingly something that does not happen very often, but very rare chance that you can get gems and items from every mining outcrop. We're going to come straight this way and out the back. Now, this area is incredibly dangerous, but as long as you can make it here, you're going to be perfectly fine. Many of the enemies are evadable in this game and do not have very high ranges where they will target you. Obviously, if you get into a scuffle with an enemy, you want to attempt to dodge all of their attacks while also holding the left click button to parry, or at least attempt to parry. I'm not very good at it. The main danger in this area, as you're about to see as we load up, is the giant fucking mantis, as I like to call it. He'll eventually, sometimes he can be over in this area, which is absolutely terrible. We got very lucky, and we actually got the best spawn spot for this mantis, which is over the pathway over there. As you can just now barely see him. We're not going to even get close to him. What we are going to do is approach this man sitting on the beach. We're going to talk to him. You're going to give him the bandage.
I can feel it working.
He gives you a tribal favor. Now, if you read the dialogue of Risa, this tribal favor is a very big deal. Normally, people do not hand them out very simply. But he was injured, and he didn't think that he could make it home. So giving him a bandage is the best option. If you can do this on the first day, I would recommend doing it. If you can't do it on the first day, attempt to do it on the second day. I'm not sure how long he stays there, but as long as it's before the 3-day period where you will lose your lighthouse, you're going to be perfectly fine. Now we can keep all the money that we have made for ourselves instead of paying off the blood price. Or paying off some of the blood price, I should say. The blood price on our head is very expensive, and there are also several ways of getting rid of it, such as joining a faction. But before we even talk about factions, I'm going to show you the best way to return to Sierzio without taking any damage. Because I hate hyenas. They're assholes. Also, do not fight the birds. They are very annoying to fight and will give you the pain debuff. The pain debuff is very bad if you're going to be fighting bandits, and that is the main thing that is in Outward that you must kill very early in the game. Now, obviously, this pathway is probably one of the best ones that you can use to get back to Sierzio. There's no enemies in this pathway, other than maybe a pearl bird and maybe a hyena once in a while, but you can easily evade them. Now that we've returned to Sierzio, I will show you exactly what class you should play if you are going to be playing solo, at least. And the class that I like the most. Also, I will be showing you one of the best early game skills for every character, no matter what character you are going to be playing. Because having this skill, as you will eventually see once we get to it, is going to be incredibly helpful. Now, since we have everything, you can also sell the tribal favor, but it's only worth 45 silver. So it's better to just give it straight to Risa and sell everything else. We actually got very lucky and got a needle tea. This is very helpful in the early game whenever you have burnt stamina and you want to continue adventuring. Sorry, you probably saw an abrupt pause there. Unfortunately, I had to go see what was happening outside, as it is currently 4th of July. I'm going to hold on to this leather because you can eventually make a very nice backpack, or actually, no, we're going to go ahead and sell it. We'll hold on to this raw meat, and we're also going to be purchasing a bow. Bows in the early game are very helpful, and will also help you increase your survivability as long as you can dodge attacks. Now, what we are going to do is walk straight up here and go talk to the Kazites. These Kazites are very helpful and very handy to have early game, as they have some very nice skills. Oops. You're going to ask him to train you and get the fitness skill. This fitness skill will increase your health and maximum stamina by 20%. Or, it's just health. It used to be stamina. Now, if you want to go down this tree, you're going to be playing a melee build that uses elemental attacks. We are not going to be doing this simply because I find that very boring. What we have to do now is go speak to Risa and turn in our tribal favor. We're also going to go ahead and equip this bow, as it is our best weapon at the moment. You can also pick up all these weapons and armors that are laid around the village and sell them for early game cash.
You have a way to make that, and well, only a blood.
She tells you that Yazan and Oliel are going to be leaving the leaving Sierzio, so you tell her that you're going to go say goodbye. Now, at this time right now, we have just about 43 silver. I want to get at least a little bit more silver before we leave Sierzio completely. So we're actually going to go ahead and sell this the second machete that we can find over here after talking to Oliel and Yazan. I'm going to skip through this dialogue because I've read it several times, but she tells you about the city that is within Monsoon. Or sorry, not within Monsoon. Within the hallowed marsh named Monsoon. Monsoon is one of the best cities that you can go to. It is a very easy city to get to, and a very, I would say, probably the best area early game to find mana stones and also get some early game Hackmanite if you're going a mage class.
Greetings, friend.
Now, what we're going to do is go ahead and sell that machete. We still need a little bit more coins, so we're going to come behind this and grab the hatchet. And why not, we're going to go ahead and sell that too. Now, the reason I wanted 50 silver is to walk over here and come back over to the merchant to buy a better backpack for the early game at least. So, as long as you speak to this merchant, scroll just a little bit down, you're going to find this Nomad's backpack, which is very handy. I thought it was 50 silver. It's only 25. So you're going to equip this backpack, open up your other one, hit take all, then open it again, and hit take all again. That way you can hold on to your primitive satchel, which can be used for crafting ingredients later. Now, you're also going to want to walk back up here towards where you last saw Risa. You're going to see that she's going to be speaking to 2 guards. You're going to also go speak to her. She tells you about the Blue Chamber and how to get to Berg. She hands you 3 free travel rations, which you can use to travel there. But we don't really care about Berg. At least not at the moment. For the moment, we are going to be staying in Cierzio limits and also within the area around it. Now, for this specific route, I will not be going to the area within the main mountainous area of Chersonese, which is the way that you can go to the ley line and obtain your magical powers. Mainly because this build that I'm going to be showing you later on, once the second tutorial comes out, is mainly based around melee combat and also holding a shield. The faction that we will be joining this time is going to be the Levantians, mainly because they are the best city that handles with melee combat, and also they're also really cool and don't give a shit about blood prices. So as soon as you join them, the blood price on your head just evaporates and nobody gives a shit. And here in our wild, we see that a hyena is fighting a pearl bird and is most likely going to perish to it. Or the pearl bird is going to perish to it. I'm not going to stick around to find out. Salt is very useful in the early game to craft travel rations, and also mainly because it is a very nice resource to have just in general. Now, the easiest way to earn money in Outward is to kill bandits or to enter into troglodyte caves. The main troglodyte cave that we are going to be after this time is going to be the one that is clearly over this direction. You want to learn every possible recipe that you can while also keeping a bunch of your money. You can also freely craft travel rations in your inventory, so we're going to go ahead and craft that up. Now, normally you don't want to do this, but since we have some cadberries around and also can go grab the food that we left within our home, I don't really care at the moment. As you can see, using a bow early game is very handy for ranged combat, as long as you can aim properly. As you can see, I simply took out all those bandits with about half of my arrows. Even after missing a couple of shots, you're going to get some of their loot, and also sometimes they can also be holding onto arrows. All the arrows that you fired that you missed can also be picked up, but apparently I'm fucking blind and can't see them. So I'm just going to leave unless I find one randomly. Obviously we had 15 arrows before, now we have 19. We actually profited arrows off of that. The bandits can also be holding on to travel rations, which is also very handy for the early game money grind. Now, the main reason that we are going to enter into this troglodyte cave is that there are two different items that you can find in this cave, and I will be showing you how to get both of them. And there are also several corpses that you can loot for free stuff. This troglodyte cave is very difficult, but there's a way around most enemies, like everything else in this game. Obviously, during the early game, you want to focus on either finding a class that you enjoy that you want to play, or attempting to move out and find different classes. I'll be showing you where each class is and how much money you need to achieve it. But the main class that we are going to be going after is a class that is within Monsoon. We got actually very lucky. This fur armor is kind of useful if you want to stay in Cerezio. As you can see, it has a bunch of cold weather defense, but right now we don't really care because it's not even close to winter. Now obviously there are trogs within this cave, so I'm going to drop my backpack and fire a couple of arrows into this guy's back. Trogs are very easy to evade, and you can kill them very simply like I just did. Now, if you have enough weight, you can pick up all these troglodyte spears, but since we don't have a lot of weight, we're not going to pick any of them up. You can also return to this cave and come back and pick up the trog staves, but we don't really care about that. The main two things that we're after is a bunch of loot that you can find within this area, giving you free stuff like arrows and even some oil and other things that you can find within this cave. Obviously, evading these trogs is your biggest worry early game. But as you can see, as long as you have good aim, it can hit all of your shots. They die very easily. Now, as you can see, my bag is a little bit encumbered, but right now we don't really care, as we have a little bit of extra space that it doesn't actually tell you that you have within it. If you turn right here, there's going to be a mana stone that you can actually mine and hope that you get a Hackmanite. Lucky for me, I have incredible luck this run and got a free Hackmanite. Hackmanite can be used for several different things if you're going to go a mage class, but like I said, we don't give a shit about the mana that we want. As you can see, as long as you do not panic, these guys are very easy to murder. In fact, that guy ran away. Which actually is pretty funny. We did lose a couple of arrows there, firing into him. But for some reason, he decided to come back after being low health, so we can murder him too. Take your arrows back, and always make sure that you put them up here, otherwise you're going to run out of ammo. Since we already have a fishing harpoon, we don't really care about that. This looter mask is actually very useful. You can keep it if you want to. These rags can be sold for not that much money, but they're still very handy early game. Now obviously we do not want to get too encumbered as we want to find different things in this area. This is probably going to be the hardest fight that you're going to fight, which is the mage. But evading their attacks is very easy. As long as you don't miss like I do. He can heal himself, which is kind of annoying. And now that we're out of arrows, we don't really want to fight him anymore. Being thirsty is actually kind of nice, because as you can see, as soon as I drink, I'm going to start regenerating a bunch of my stamina. Now, he came back, so we're going to pull out a sword and simply swing him to death. As he has low stamina resistance, we can just swing until he dies. Getting some free and very nice loot. We did unfortunately get the both of the debuffs that he has the capability of giving us. So unfortunately for us, we want to try to evade every single encounter from now on. Obviously, that is going to be nearly impossible, as most of the troglodytes will aggro onto you from a very far range. But you can simply run past them. As long as you have the stamina, you can evade most of these attacks and come up here and get this mushroom, if it would take it. Now, while having this mushroom, you can actually evade attacks very easily and just walk past them back again. Now, we're going to go straight this way and down this path without giving a single care in the world, while just having their mushroom in our hands. Like I said, this is a very easy way to earn money. Even with the slowness debuff, you can outrun most troglodytes. Now, this is the exit back out into the real world. We are going to go the exact opposite way and come over here. This is where we found the monostone the first time, but this time we're going to have a different pathway that we take. We are going to head left here, and then right here. And eventually you should find... Oh, I went the wrong way. It's the opposite way. And of course there's a trog in our way. Well, there's two. You know what? Since we have both debuffs, we're actually just going to simply run past them. Because honestly, I don't really want to fight them with low health. Drinking stuff will actually give you a burst of stamina regen. And also give you a bunch of stuff later on. Drinking will also put out the burning effect. Lucky for us, we actually just found a tiny aquamarine, which we can sell for a bunch of money. In this room, you're going to just pick up this giant heart, and then you're just going to simply run away. Now with all the troglodyte loot secured in our bag, it doesn't really matter if you die here, because as long as you can make it out of this cave alive, and make sure that you do not get encountered by any more troglodytes or bandits, you're going to be perfectly fine. Obviously, we have a troglodyte blocking the pathway, but you can simply run past him and go to the exit, which I find very funny. Exiting to Chersonese, you will be able to acquire a bunch of money that is good for the early game. If you're not planning on playing a mage class, the best situation that you can have is having all these items and not giving a shit about any of them. Right now, we do not really need to hold on to the shield, because we can buy a new one very simply and very easily during the early game. You can also find them from bandits and just steal them anyway. Since we have very low stamina, you're going to see that our character does not want to sprint as much. And since we don't have a lot of arrows, we really don't want to get into any more encounters. Make sure that you always turn off your lantern because you don't want it to burn out. Now, this shield is very important for the early game, as long as you're playing a class like I'm going to be playing. Because if you don't want to wait until you get a new one, you can always just hold on to it without turning in the quest. But right now, since we need a bunch of money, we're going to be turning it in as a quest reward. Also, this is the perfect timing of entering and exiting the troglodyte cave. Normally you want to try to kill them all, but since we got low health, it's not very helpful to us to continue. I normally loot every single chest on the road that I see, because they can have very useful items in them that you can either sell or keep in your inventory. Now, there is a hyena blocking our path. Unfortunately, back to Cerzio. But we don't really care because we can just simply run past him and get to the door and press F to enter into a cutscene where he cannot hurt us. As soon as you enter and exit a loading zone, however, he will return and he will most likely kill you. Now, if you really want to, you can hold on to this tiny aquamarine to open up a new area within the troglodyte cave, but normally it's just worth it to sell it right out. First thing that you're going to want to do is head directly left as soon as you head into Cerzio. Once you head up this pathway, turn right or turn left until you see this woman.
Greetings, friend.
You're going to ask her about work. You're going to just tell her that you straight up have the reward. She gives you 70 silver, and then you tell her that you might have an unusual item.
I'm always
You find this drained garnet. Normally it sells for 15 gold, but she gives you 15 extra. So that's 30 gold right there, plus another 70. That does not include every single item that you've picked up along the way or on the road. What you're going to do now is talk to this caravaner and just sell everything that you have in your pockets. Not selling your mining pickaxe like I almost did. As you can see, this fur clothing sells for a hefty amount of gold. And you don't really need it in the early game because winter will not be for quite some time. Now, you can also hold on to all these rags, but they also sell for 4 silver each, so why not? We're going to go ahead and sell them. Obviously, we don't need this hackmanite. We're going to sell that too. And also this tiny aquamarine. Please hold on to any power coils that you happen to find, as they are very helpful later down the road. As you can see, we're going to sell a bunch of stuff and actually buy out the merchant entirely. So we're going to withdraw one of the items and get 335 gold, or silver in this game. You're going to return to one of the merchants within here. As you can see, he has plenty of money. We're just going to buy him completely out of his money. And then buy a new shield for 20 silver. This is actually technically profit, because now I can hold a sword and a shield. Returning into the Gazites, you can actually begin to get the class that I'm going to be playing fairly early on in the game. What you're going to do is talk to this Kazite, ask him to train,
curious.
Oop.
Amber, my friend.
You're going to get the steady arm, which increases impact resistance while you are blocking. You're also going to grab shield charge, as it is going to be very handy later on. Many shields do not have a special effect, but the shield charge ability allows you to use the special effect of any shield that you have. We're going to actually activate that onto our queue, and since it's getting later in the day, you're just going to go ahead and hit the bed. Now that we have this shield, and a bunch of our early game stuff, that is basically how you start the early game. Each day that you sleep, new things can happen, new areas unlock, depending on different situations. And also, now that we are here and have a bunch of stuff, such as having a bunch of salt, you're going to grab every single cooking item that you can. Come up to this kitchen and craft some travel rations. Since we ran out of salt, that's perfectly fine. As we have a cooking pot in our inventory, it's going to be alright. What we're going to quickly do is actually make sure that we understand where our pathing is going to lead us. Right now, I'm thinking about either returning to the storeroom, or just straight up leaving Sierzia. What I'm actually going to do for this is just show you a few extra things that you can do early game that are very easy to get without any problems. Now, if you're playing a mage class, most of the time you're going to want to save all the turnips that you can, as they are a very easy way of getting mana regen. Also, as long as you enter into that troglodyte cave, there's always going to be star mushrooms laid about in that cave that you can pick up for some easy and very edible early game mana regen. Since we don't really care about mana, and we're not going to be using it at all during this playthrough, we don't really care if we have it or not. At least we're not going to be using mana early game, I should say. And this is why I hate hyenas, as they are the worst enemy in the game. As you can see, parrying the attacks is very handy, because hyenas are very dumb, and will just attack you outright, even if you're holding up a shield. And as you can see, since we have impact resistance, that was a very easy fight. We're actually going to go ahead and take that food and use it for travel rations for the early game grind. What I'm going to show you now is the mountain where you can get your magic. Should you be wanting to get your magic early and not want to really fight any enemies, there are specific pathways upon the mountain where you can take that you gain an ally that follows you around. The one that I'm going to show you is exactly where to get the Holy Missions pathway, which gives you a free ally that you can use to just bait all the enemies to, and he'll just murder them for you, giving you all free loot. There are several salt outcrops that you can find also in this region that are going to be useful for travel rations. Such as this one on the cliff, where you can just stand on the hill and mine the salt. We actually happen to get a Gravel Beetle there, which you can also use for early game healing potions. As long as you have a Blood Mushroom, that is. Make sure that you always check every hallowed trunk, and also throw out the items that you don't feel that you will be able to need or be able to sell. Plank shields and also any trap-related items you cannot sell. Also, if you haven't noticed, I actually happen to get a power coil in this playthrough. And I'm holding on to it into my bag because we actually need 2 of them to get a very early game backpack that is very nice. Especially if you're going to be playing a tank class. Right now, since we don't have a lot of items on us, or even a second power coil, we're going to ignore the entirety of early game Cerzio. Unless, of course, we happen upon a second power coil, in which case we'll return to Cerzio and get the item that we can get early game for melee. Fighting 2-on-1 is very hard, so we're actually going to attempt to bait both of these enemies away and simply just run. Know where your strength is, and if you can't defeat a battle by yourself, simply walk away from the fight, as the de-aggro range of most enemies is very easy to understand. Now, following this pathway that I'm taking will eventually lead you to a caravan and a tent over here. Obviously, you want to pick up everything that you can get, even in the supply caches. Spikes can actually be sold, so we're actually going to take these ones. I nearly forgot. The only spikes that can't actually be sold are the wooden ones, as most merchants don't give a shit about them. Mainly because you can craft them very easily. And I feel that that would break the game. This caravan actually has a worker's corpse, which normally has a bunch of stuff on it, which you can just simply take and walk away. Now for your early game mana regen, you're just going to want to explore all the way around the mountain. As you can see, there's a turnip right there. And they're all across this region of Cerzio. Now where I'm going to lead you is towards the Holy Missions way to get into the ley line. Which, if you're playing solo, is probably the best case scenario if you're wanting magic early game, but since we don't really care at the moment, you can either decide to get the magic now, or you can decide to get it later, whenever you have a bunch of money. As you can see, there are going to be turnips along the way that you can pick up for early game mana regen. Since we don't really care, we're simply just going to walk away from them. One of the main items that I'm going to be using in this run is actually at the top of this mountain, but since we don't have enough power to go all the way up there, we're not gonna be able to do it at this moment. And since we're kind of strapped for cash, I may as well enter into the Holy Mission. I get a bunch of the stuff. Now, obviously, there are going to be bandit lieutenants with those little dogs that have the armor on them. You can simply just walk around them. Wow, I can't speak today. As you don't want to fight those things. They suck a lot. There's another bandit lieutenant that actually has a shield. Also, if you see me looking around, I'm trying to make sure that I'm at the right pathway. In this case, I am. This game is very hard to navigate, especially whenever you're not very used to the map. But as you can see, you can tell which area you're going to be entering by the flags at the sides of each of this area. Since we are here, this is the Holy Mission, otherwise known as Monsoon's area. Entering into it will actually tell you which way you've went. In this case, we're going to the Holy Missions to freely get some free items. While we're here, we're going to put at least 1 point into our magic, but we're not going to be using it very early in the game. As you can see, there's going to be a man in here. There's also quite a few potions that you can find throughout here, and also a bunch of recipes. There's also a primitive satchel, which reminds me, I believe we forgot to put ours away, and we did. Normally you want to put it into the lighthouse, that way you don't have to have them carrying around.
What you need? Listen up.
As soon as we start walking this way, he's going to follow us into this room. There's going to be a bunch of troglodytes and mantises. What we're going to do is just simply run around while he fights them for us. What we can do to help him is come back here and take out this mage. But since there's a mantis on us, unfortunately we're not going to be able to defeat it without dying. He killed one of the mantises, and now he's going after the trogs, which are very easy for him. Simply evading all these attacks and getting him to kill them all. Since the mantis is on him now, we can freely kill this mage for him to help him out with the mantis, while also going around and getting all the free loot. Since we took a bit of damage, you can actually use one of these bandages to restore some of your health points. There's also going to be mana stones here that you can mine freely in case you get Hackmanite. Again, since we're not playing a magic-based class at the moment, you're not going to be using these Hackmanites at the moment, so you can normally just sell them for a bunch of profit. Later on, you will need to farm up some Hackmanite, but early game you can just simply sell it. If you get into an encounter with an enemy, simply lead it back up here, because your ally's pathing is very weird, and he won't follow you all the way down. Since you're in combat, he will rush to your side in an attempt to save you. Obviously, this mantis is stupid and got stuck on an area, so we're going to have to bait it just a little bit more to get him to return back to the area. Seems that he forgot that he said that he was going to protect us, but now remembers suddenly whenever he sees us in a fight. Now that he's fighting it, we don't really care what happens, as most of the time he's going to finish the fight without any problems. And even if he happens to perish, we don't really care, as we're not going to be allying with Monsoon this time. We also need to pull that lever and simply walk away from these troglodytes. You can indeed bait them back to the main area, in which case this guy will just suddenly say, "Oh no, you're in a combat encounter. Let me just save you from dying from these random troglodytes." As you can see, since he does insane damage, most of the time it doesn't matter how many enemies you bait to him, he's going to be able to murder them all. Sometimes he will indeed miss, but most of the time he can normally one or two shot troglodytes, as you can see there. If you really want to, you can pick up all the items here. Right now, since we're not really strapped for cash, we don't really care if we need them or not. All we care about is completing the main mission. Since our inventory is kind of getting a little bit full, we're going to actually drop a few things that we don't actually quite need at this moment. And then carry on with the rest of our journey. Also, as you can probably see, he regens his health a little bit, very slowly, each time that you end in a combat encounter. Obviously, each of these pathways has a lever that you have to flip, and each time that you have the encounter, you simply just run back to the main area, in hopes that the guy from Monsoon saves your fucking life. As you can see here, we're fighting an armored troglodyte. And our friend here, as long as he lands his attacks. Wow, this is actually becoming a horrible situation. Oh wow, the grenaders actually being able to hit us now. This is actually probably one of the worst case scenarios where the troglodytes are evading his attacks and he's not able to kill them very easily. This is becoming so terrible that I now have to run away in hopes that the grenader stops attacking me. We're actually just going to continuously hold up the shield as we tick down from poison damage and most likely perish from it. Lucky for us, we took the holy mission, so most of the time you're just going to reload straight back into that area with a bit of pain running through your body. He's going to give you a bandage and keep your backpack here. And as you can see, he killed the enemy, but he didn't kill the grenader. So what we're going to do is lead him back into here and tell him very nicely, please kill this grenader. Unfortunately for us, we took poison damage again. But we're simply going to watch him kill this grenader, pass out again, load back through the area, and of course we return just back to the same area, getting a free bandage. You can do this as many times as you want. Just make sure that each time that you do it, that you understand that you are going to be losing a bit of time. Since we were already low health, it doesn't really matter what happens to us. This mage is going to attempt to fight us, but he's just going to simply debuff us. And we actually find some really nice armor. We're actually going to go ahead and put this on and toss out our old armor, as half plate is very nice to have early game. We actually got a Hackmanite from that chest, or from that Mana Stone, meaning that we have some more money in our pockets. The mage doesn't actually deal any real damage to you, as long as you don't get close to him. Now, all you have to do is search for the third lever. Which is right here. Once you pull this lever, you're going to run back this way. And as you can see, the door is open. Once you enter this door, you're going to enter the Conflux Chambers. Once you fully load in, you're going to notice that you drop straight down. Head straight this way. And since there are no more enemies, take as much loot as you can, as there's actually a shopkeep straight up ahead. As you can see, we've made it straight to the ley line. In which case, you can walk straight up and get your ley line magic. Now, if you're going to be playing a mage-based class, you're actually going to want to talk to each of these teachers, as each of them gives you a unique spell that you can use later on down the road. The main spells that we're going to be using is from Hexblade, so we're just going to put 1 point into our magic, as we don't really care about it at the moment. We can always come back here later in case we want to put another one in.
Listen to me.
As you can see, he wants to teach me Fire Sigil, but I don't really care, so we're just simply going to tell him no. Now that you have your magic, you can actually talk to this guy, and as you can see, he has a bunch of money, so you can just sell everything that you have in your inventory. Now normally you don't want to sell these Astral Potions, but since we can just make them later, we're just going to go ahead and sell them, as we don't really care about them. You want to hold on to every single gravel beetle that you can, and also all the food items that you possibly can. Insect husks are very useless, so you're just going to be able to sell them. The Hackmanite you can find later, sell the mana stones. Hold on to this power coil as you're going to need it later. And simply make 400 silver from that. You can also buy out his gold bars to decrease the weight of how much you're carrying. You can simply leave this area and come back here later. If you actually come back in 7 days, all the loot will be respawned, and you can just open every single chest and loot it for free loot. And if you really want to, you can just sleep 7 days in the lighthouse without any care in the world, and respawn all the enemies, returning here for extra cash. As you can see, we exit very easily out back near the Vendavel Fortress, which we'll be heading to much later on down the playthrough. Once you're done with that area, you can do whatever you really want to. But what I'm going to show you now is just simply returning to Cierzio. With all the cash in hand. If you really want to while you're out and about, you can also go up to each of these mining outcrops and mine the iron veins and hope that you either get a gravel beetle or you actually get a gem. Be careful not to pass out to these bandits, as if you do, you're going to be kidnapped into the Vendavel Fortress and most likely suffer for about 15 hours, trying to earn as much money as you can to escape Vendavel Fortress. And it's very tedious to do this. Each time that you perish to these bandits, they bring you to Vendavel Fortress and tell you that you have to work for them now. Since we're here and evaded all the bandits, you can actually run up to this rich iron vein and mine it in case you actually get a gem from it. This is here in both the original and the definitive editions of both of the games, and luckily for us, we actually happen to get a gem from it. And since you're on your return to Cierzio, and you don't really care about your bag space, you can just basically loot everything without a care in the world. Make sure that you toss out everything in every chest, even if you don't need it. It'll lay on the ground forever, and in 7 days, it'll replenish itself. You can also find more loot in each of these chests. Each of these stone structures that you find, you want to make sure that you go around it and try to find where the stash is hiding. As you can see, we got free bandages, incendiaries, and a bunch of stuff that we can actually use for a bunch of money. And as you can see right over there, there's the Conflux path straight to the Holy Mission. If you really want to, also, you can enter into the Troglodyte Cave and evade all the enemies, getting the chest inside. But for us, since we don't really need it, we don't really care. And also, we do not want to perish before heading to Cierzio. Make sure to loot every hollowed trunk, as it has a chance to hold different stuff inside of it. And each time that you loot it, and come back in 7 days, it'll replenish. Once you head back to Sierzio, make sure that you take a nice long nap after what happened in the Conflux path. Obviously, if you're playing a mage-based class, and you don't want to sleep as much, you can obviously just explore and do whatever you want. As most mage classes want to deal with the tired debuff, which is just minus stamina regen and permanent mana regen. Also, many of these places that look deadly in Outward are simply just Skyrim mountains that you can simply walk down. As you can see there, I simply evaded all the terrain by simply walking straight down in a straight line, without a care in the world. The signing den is actually quite annoying, so we're just going to not even do it, ever, because it doesn't have very good loot. What we are instead going to do is use all of our stamina to sprint back to Sierzio. And also look at the time. I believe it is about afternoon, unless it is currently setting, which I can't actually tell at the moment. It is setting. So it's about 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now that we're back in Sierzio, we're safe from everything, every single horror that is outside. What I'm going to do now is set up for the next tutorial. So what you're going to see now is pretty much the basic preparations to explore the entire world, while also keeping a hold of the lighthouse. Obviously, we bought out the Serbian merchant of all of his money, so you're just going to want to head to the blacksmith, who is most likely going to have the most money in the village. You're going to sell basically everything to him, including the iron scraps and every single thing that you found inside of the caves. Since we don't have any salt at the moment, you can decide if you want to sell this extra food, which in this case, since we have 11 rations, we're just going to go ahead and sell it, as we're just going to head straight to Monsoon after this. Since this raw meat is spoiling, you're actually going to want to sell it no matter what. If you're playing a mage class, please hold on to these, as they're going to be very useful later on. And make sure that you always give back the gold, and just get a gold bar, as these merchants will eventually run out of money, and restore it in every 7 days. What we're going to do now is make sure that we have enough money, and find out that we had salt in our inventory this whole time, and begin to cry. Now that I think about it, we can actually turn this gabberry into some gabberry jam, and potentially find some pearl birds along the way for some meat. Setting up to leave Sierzio is very easy. All you have to do is make sure that you leave your primitive satchel. Make sure that you have nothing else in your stash. Since we don't have a lot of items, you can just carry them on you no matter where you go. The place that we're going to be heading next to is to Monsoon. The preparations for leaving Sierzio are just saying goodbye to everybody and returning in 40 days at least. Obviously, if you have enough money, which at this point in time we do, and you've bought all the skills that you want to, you can actually return to this merchant up here if you're going to be playing a melee class.
Amber, my friend.
And actually buy the skill because it increases your health, stamina, and mana by 15. It does cost you a breakthrough point and 600 silver, and since we don't have enough money, we're just going to simply leave the area. Obviously, there are more things to do in Sierzio. And since this is kind of early game, you can obviously go out to each bandit camp and kill every single bandit. Especially Malcolm Fortress, which actually has some pretty decent loot. But that is going to be the end of the early game route of Outward. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new. See you guys next time on the next tutorial.